Okay, so tonight my presentation is about obesity. My the purpose of this study is to I'm sorry sound the alarm about obesity. Um, hmm, Obesity affects us not only nationally but globally. According to the CDC, it affects women more than men. Um, this subject has become really dear to me because it is a personal issue that affects me, but I have several people in my family, and what this paper has done has been it's allowed me to talk with some degree of knowledge about this issue here. And so tonight, like I say, my purpose of this is to sound the alarm about obesity. Obesity is rising to, according to the CDC, what they call epidemic levels. And there are dangerous ailments associated or brought on by obesity. Obesity, some of the physical illness, ailments, I'm sorry, that are the consequences of obesity range from sleep apnea, heart failure, respiratory failure, and type 2 diabetes. I don't know if I repeated that one twice, but so in um, in 2000, so in 1990, the obesity rate for men and women was 15%, and by 2004, the obesity rate was 30%. But in 2017, of men 20 and older, the obesity rate was 37.9. And for women, it's 41.7 women 20 and older. Researchers have depicted that there is a significant reduction in the lifespan of obese individuals as compared to non obese individuals. The United States will spend $50 million per 100,000 obese individuals. Obesity will cause the death of an estimated 300,000 people this year. Obesity is a major component for early mortality. Obesity is not only affecting adults, but it's also affecting our children. We have young people that are not feeling confident in their lives right now. There are many causes of obesity. I mean, there's not enough time to cover all of them. But some of the causes of obesity can be genetic, behavioral, it can also be economic, um, medication related, and right now, today, I think a lot of the cause of obesity is self care for us. We are very busy raising our families and this sort of thing. And some of us are just running very hectic schedules, and we're not taking care of ourselves. We are eating on the go, feeding our families on the go. We're using quick prepared meals, not a lot of time to prepare fresh vegetables and um, not able to get to the store to serve and prepare healthy meals, and the socioeconomic reasons too. Some of us, simply can't afford healthy foods. I mean, we are now revamping, but I think it's become of time. We're revamping the lunch programs and things like that, so our kids can get a healthy meal. But uh, socioeconomically, there are not enough grocery stores in some neighborhoods. You have people who don't have vehicles, who are not able to get to these grocery stores and get variety of fruits and vegetables. And I'm from Chicago, and there's not a lot of what used to be, corner stores that were like markets. You could get butchered meat, you could get fruits and vegetables there, and there's not a lot of that. There's a lot of abandoned areas now, and even the big grocery stores have closed, and they're far and few in between. So there are a lot of causes for obesity, and it could be genetic. I know in my family, it's not only but I have another sister now who is having some physical ailments and some serious issues now with obesity. I remember my mom, when she was in her 30s, was a pretty healthy girl too. So, like I said, the subject is got a lot of reasons and causes of it. It's not just always excessive eating is the main cause of it. Like I say, and then even sleeping, if you are not sleeping and you're awake and you find yourself watching TV, most of the time, if we're watching TV at night, we're snacking. Um, and stress is also an increased feeling of hunger. You want to eat comfort foods to help you to relax. So there are several different causes for obesity that we have here. And the thing about the CDC gives us the stats, and the CDC says that heart disease is the number one killer, but the CDC does not screen for obesity and heart disease. So most of the circumstances for obesity also uh, cause heart disease metabolically. Increased sugar in the blood, increased sugar in the blood constantly is another way, that increases your cholesterol. Um, Obesity causes high cholesterol, which in turn increases your blood pressure. Increased cholesterol and increased blood pressure are main causes of heart disease. And heart disease increases your risk for stroke. Increased cholesterol also increases your risk for cardiovascular disease also, and cardiovascular disease is also a very dangerous ailment brought on by obesity. Heart disease, heart failure, I'm sorry, is one of the ailments brought on by obesity. Heart failure is a lack of the heart to function properly, and this can be due to a lack of oxygen. When you're overweight, your heart doesn't pump properly, which means you get a backup of blood flow, and you also, in that backup of blood flow, have suffer from a lack of oxygen due to the fact that you've got this CHF, this fluid just sitting there on your heart, and it's not moving down to the through the lungs as it should. You have high cholesterol levels that are sitting there because your arteries are clogged from the cholesterol sitting there. You have a buildup of blood, like I said, in your chambers, flow, lack of flow of blood in the heart chambers, your heart's in fluid overload. Um, and the heart mechanism, like I said, is poor. You have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes. Diabetes is the increase of sugar in the blood. Increased sugar in the blood also can cause renal failure if you have that on a constant level, the sugar buildup. Your body in type 2 diabetes has an inability to use insulin properly. So you have these insulin receptors in your body, and what it is there's a lot of insulin floating around, but not able to engage a receptor that would bring your sugar levels down. So your sugar continues to build in your body. And then with sleep apnea, you have a serious fatty level that develops, usually lining your lumbar area and chest area. So that fatty tissue prevents your diaphragm from free flowing, from expanding and contracting. It also stops your breathing. So the apnea is really the lack of breathing. So what it is you can have apnea several times throughout the night, and that apnea can either last for seconds or it can last for minutes. And this apnea is called obstructive apnea, which is usually the lack of uh, body weight pressing down on your diaphragm, and your diaphragm unable to move due to the lack of weight on your body frame. So obstructive mean that there's something obstructing it. And then the whole fact that, like I say, you're lying down, and the heaviness of your chest and the lack of ability for your diaphragm to function causes apnea. And apnea can lead to sleepiness during the day, a lack of focus, a lack of clarity. Uh, when you get this apnea, if it gets serious, you can fall asleep while driving. You can fall asleep without knowing it. It increases your CO2 levels. Um, it can cause you a lack of clarity doing things that you need to be alert for. So most people with this sleep apnea require what I call a CPAP machine, which will help them breathe more effectively by blowing air down into the lungs, and will allow the lungs to expand even though the diaphragm is not raising it in and out. So, in other words, the seriousness of the dysfunction of the diaphragm is what causes the apnea. So, the purpose of this study was to sound the alarm and to look at the physical ailments caused by obesity. Obesity, again, is not only affecting us nationally but globally. We need to sound the alarm. We need to educate not just this generation but the next generation on taking care of our bodies. The word says that our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, and we need to treat them as such. And right now, I can't say that I've always treated my body right. And I think that for this next generation, it would be helpful to us to start to educate this new generation about the problems and the effects of obesity early. That means taking programs to school, making social workers aware, talking with healthcare professionals and teachers about how to build programs to help our young people, and not only that, but to help some of us as adults who are not aware of what a healthy diet and exercise looks like, educated about our medications and how they work and perform in our bodies, so that that is not an issue. But overall, we need to take a look at this obesity that the CDC is saying is at an academic rate. This whole subject is a huge topic. There was plenty of angles to cover it, and I hope that I have given you an understanding of what obesity is. It is, as the CDC says, growing at an epidemic rate. And we need to make sure that we're here for the next generation. And we all, God said that we're to love each other. And obese people are not always treated with love and kindness. That's another thing we need to educate the public on. Sometimes obese people are discriminated on by the very people who take care of them, and that's sometimes our doctors and nurses. So um, we do need to sound the alarm about these things that are affecting us, these things that are affecting us, especially obesity, which the CDC is saying is growing at an alarming rate. And that's my presentation, and that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.